Hello and welcome back to Between Sundays, the podcast where we have conversations that you should be having as well. Super excited about today. I've got with me, of course, my co-host, Maxine.
Hey, everyone.
And we've got a guest here with us. I'm super excited to have him. His name is Paul Cutter.
Hey,
Thank you for joining us today, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Tell me, how long have you been attending New Life Church?
Oh, probably 2005 after I came back from Japan.
Oh, wow.
Being in the Air Force, yeah.
Okay.
2005.
So
started out here in the.
I was getting ready to say, so
yeah.
you were before they built the big building.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. So Paul's one of the OGs here. We're excited to have him here, have this conversation around stewardship. So let's talk about it. Living between Sundays. All right. So when we say the word stewardship, one of the first things comes to my mind is money, right? And I can remember as a little kid, my dad used to quote, I think it's in, I don't remember, it was 1st or 2nd Timothy chapter 6, and it would say, the love of money is the root of all evil.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was really careful at pointing out that it says the love of money, right? And so my dad would really like parse out the difference between money being a tool versus, money itself is not evil. And like, yes, you can have that fancy car, you can have this, but like, what are you actually doing with the tool God gave you, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with all these kind of thoughts around money and stewardship and all of that. And then the older I get, when it's time to pay bills and things like that, I'm thinking about money. And then I'm also thinking about how to save money, how to acquire money and all this. But it gets to this place of like, am I thinking about money too much? Like at what point has money become an idol? At what point has money become too much of the focus? There people are just like, give it all away. Just, live by the seat of my pants. And I can't do that, But then also, it's the balance, right? So it's kind of what I want to talk about here today. I'll start with you, Max. When it comes to money, when it comes to stewardship, what was kind of the viewpoint as you were growing up, coming into your own?
Yeah, so I grew up, my mom was a single mom, and then my grandmother was a single mom too. And so although there were like men around available, like I think it was really ingrained for me to always have your own money. Like that was very important. Like don't ever depend on a man for money, that kind of thing, like you have your own. And so I was always a hard worker. I've always like had a job as like far back as I can remember. I always did well with money. I always had savings. I always was able to buy what I needed to buy. I was never a big spender. I'm not like super into like materialistic stuff. So that wasn't even an issue. The temptation wasn't to like go and blow it all anywhere. But where it got really hairy for me was going away to college. That was the big thing that kind of put all of the pressure, because I went at 18. I had to take out loans by myself. You could do that back then, which is crazy. You didn't need a cosigner back then.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I took out a really massive loan to go to Northeastern University. And they have that first loan that I had was a 14.5 interest rate. Thousands of dollars.
My God.
And I just signed my little life away and didn't even think anything about it, right? Like I didn't have any concept for what a number that large even was. And to be honest, I didn't know anything about interest either. Like, okay, I'll pay it back, whatever. You go to college, you'll have money and you'll pay it back. Like that's kind of the language that was around, right? Also, went to school in 2006 is when I started. So around that time was the whole push that everybody must go to college. Right. Like it was just everybody goes. That's it. So I didn't think twice about it. I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll keep signing my life away. And I ended Northeastern, or while I was working at Northeastern, I ended up taking a job as a college access counselor. And so I ended up helping kids through their financial application process and realized how much I had messed up. That was when it started to hit me like, oh no, I'm going to have to pay all this back. And when I calculate interest, I'm going to be how much in debt? What is going on? Yeah. And so that really hit me hard. I graduated, got out, had a job out of Teach for America. So I was a teacher for the first year, not making a whole lot, but enough to, I guess, eat maybe. But I was living in Brooklyn, New York. It's expensive. And I had, I had to pay for housing. I had to pay for food. I had to whatever. And then I'll give you this number, a very real number, that my minimum payment, because this was before economic, what is it called with the loans that you can pay back like based on how much money you make.
Mm.
That wasn't a thing yet.
Income-based.
Income-based
Yeah.
repayment. That was not a thing yet. So I had to pay the minimum on my stuff. So my minimum payment every month was $1,800
My gosh.
in 2011.
That's crazy.
That's not rent.
Wow.
That's not food.
wait,
That's
wait,
not
wait,
clothes.
wait.
No. That's just
the
my
loan.
debt.
The loan.
My loan.
My gosh.
$1,800, just the minimum. I would not be moving like interest. My money would not be touching the principal. I mean, it was just $1,800.
And of course, that strings it along when you're not really touching the principal.
Yep.
It's just, that's
Yep.
wild.
So it was crazy. So that's when my anxiety around money started right then, and just realizing like, oh my God, like I'm barely making it. It's taking up my entire paycheck. I don't have anything left over after I pay for rent, after I pay for this. There's literally nothing, and I'm not moving.
And let me just pause and say, credit cards, student loans, all that
Mhm.
stuff. I'm not trying to paint people as evil, but there are evil people that
Yeah.
prey on young, naive, and I mean, I fell into that too. It wasn't that large, but
Mhm.
at a young age, signing a loan, not really understanding what it is
Yeah.
until later on. Oh, that's what I'd be paying back, and that's what this is how long it would take if I don't make extra payments and whatnot. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
it's fine. But that's what they tell you to do, right? They
Yeah.
tell you take out the loan, pay, go to college. Like this is what you're supposed to be doing. And you're like, okay. And there's no like money classes along the
Yeah.
way to teach you, okay, this is too much money. This is not worth it. This is not. So when I started that college access work, that's what I really began doing with my students, like working them through making the money real. Because a kid at 17 years old doesn't understand what it is to take out a loan that's $30,000 at a 14% interest rate.
Right.
They don't get that. So what does this actually mean? How do I work a student through in real life? If you get out and you're only making this amount of money because you want to be a teacher or whatever, what is it going to look like for your life? So my life really just like dramatically, I ended up having to work 3 jobs. I was working 3 jobs throughout. So I'd have money left over for groceries, and like, that's it. And the saving grace was that I'm not a big spender. So I didn't have credit card debt. I didn't have any of that extra stuff. It was literally just
your student loan.
just my student loan and then trying to eat. Like those are the 2 things.
That's wild.
So it was a struggle. I had a lot of anxiety. I used to have panic attacks. I used to have like all this stuff surrounding money. It was like a big thing for me, which continued all the way until I got saved. And I don't know, God, in the craziness of everything that was going on, I feel that God did a couple things for me there, which was, one, gave me this crazy vision that we would be kingdom builders, that I would be a kingdom builder, and speaking with money, which was like,
Amen.
okay, sure, I'm sitting in all of this debt, right? I can't, but this is the vision. And I felt very strongly and very clear about it. And I'm like, okay, well then there must be a supernatural solution to whatever this all is. And so he gave me that, but then he also gave me like a really strong conviction that I should not be in debt. Just like that this is not the way that he's created us to be, and that I need to get rid of this, like by all means possible. And so along the way, I also found FPU and like a bunch of other just financial kind of literacy books, and started to really understand like, oh, this is how we turn this into a tool instead of like something enslaved. And completely debt free now, like completely wiped out all of my student debt, all of our other debt that we had from getting married and bringing on stuff together. Like we live a debt free life. And so like it's possible. And like we're in that phase now. Okay, what does this look like to be stewards? What does it look like to build the kingdom financially? What is that shift is where we're at right now.
That's where my wife and I are working toward that now. We're working toward getting to the debt-free spot. Now, we were blessed, I will say, that her parents paid for her college. So like we didn't come into marriage with student loans and all that. But, we got married young. And I'm just be honest, young and dumb in some ways, right? So there were a couple loans that we signed on to and things like that. And then a year into our marriage, we moved over here. And let me just say, from Delaware to the DMV, it's a lot more expensive, you know. And so there were some things that we had acquired over, we've been married now for 8.5 years of marriage, something like that. So now we're at this place where we're working, and I actually had a conversation with her recently that was very similar to what you said. It's just like, I'm feeling this, I didn't use the word conviction, but essentially the same thing. I'm feeling this feeling that like we got to get out of this. Like, and it's not, oh my gosh, the walls are crashing in. It's just, there needs to be a certain amount of freedom, right? There needs to be freedom to be able to invest in somebody else when the time calls, freedom to be able to, I think about the story in Genesis of Joseph when he was placed under Pharaoh to basically help them in the 7 years of plenty, because there would be 7 years of not, right? And it was because of God placing it on Joseph's heart to do that and giving him the smarts, the vision to do that. The whole known world was saved through him being financially smart, right? And being able to save things. So Paul, I met you as the Financial Peace University guy. Like, I didn't even really know your name. I would hear Pastor Adam talking, and he's like, I had a conversation with Paul Cutter, and I'm like, who's Paul Cutter? He's like, he's a Financial Peace University guy. And I'm like, well, what is that? And, you know, I didn't even know our church had done that, to be honest with you. And so then when I finally met you and kind of understood a little bit of who you are, a little bit of what you do, and you're involved in multiple ministries here. But what kind of got you to the place of going from just average Joe to being someone who takes finances seriously, and so much so that you want to help other people get their finances in line?
Right. I would say growing up, I really didn't, I grew up Catholic, and my dad was a bricklayer. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. So didn't have a lot of money, and this was in Ohio. But when there were times where I wanted to do things, like I was in the Boy Scouts and stuff like that, and I wanted to go to the National Jamboree, or wanted to go to Philmont, New Mexico, which is the ranch in New Mexico. Mom and Dad couldn't pay for that. And they're like, well, if you want to go, you're going to have to pay for it yourself, or pay for the portion that you need to. So I'm out cutting grass, doing everything I can to pay my portion. So I don't know if I didn't consciously think of it as being stewards, of the resources, but, and then through my whole adult life, up until my first wife and I divorced, I was terrible with money. I spent more money. I wasn't the best with money. But once we separated, because she used to handle all the money. Being in the military, we were traveling all the time. Usually the spouse, the non-military member, will take care of the money, make sure all the checks get paid and all that stuff, all the bills get paid, and keep the home, the home front kind of going the way it's supposed to. But when we separated, now it's all my responsibility. And I still work for the U.S. government, and I have a job that requires a security clearance, so I can't have any financial issues, right? So that really stressed me out. And I was praying. At that time, it was just me and God and one dog at home. Lord, you got to help me out. You got to give me the tools. And then almost the next Sunday, Pastor Mike said, hey, we're going to do this thing called Financial Peace. I said, thank you, Lord. Answered prayers. I said, I'm there. Where do I sign up? So that would have been about 2014. And I took the class and went through it, started my journey. And then along my journey, I met my forever bride, Sharon, and Sharon, and she was in some debt, and I was teaching her as I was going, through the whole process. And so we got out of debt before our first anniversary, which was a huge blessing. And then I just got this fire. I'm like, hey, this has radically changed my life. I need to share this with as many people as I can. And at that time, the church, the Financial Peace ministry, had kind of fallen off for whatever reason. I don't know if the facilitators had moved away or what the situation was, but came to Tina and I said, hey, are we still doing this? Can we do this? I want to be part of this or whatever. And so she said, yeah, so you're the guy. So that's how I started doing that, probably 2019. And of course I teach, or I facilitate two sessions a year, 9-week sessions. And it's just in my heart that it has radically changed my life and Sharon's life. If I can convey that or help somebody else get that feeling, then it'll radically change their life too, and it'll set them up, for success. You talk about not knowing how to never being taught in school and stuff like that, which is a shame, right? A lot of people don't know that the Bible talks more about money and finances, stuff like that, than any other thing it talks about, more about prayer, more than that. So my thought was, if he's talking that much about money, this is something we need to know about or need to be paying attention about, right? So that's kind of where my passion came from, was to help people and talking about kingdom building. Sharon and I have really been praying about this a lot lately, and sorry about that.
You're good.
That is our focus, is building the kingdom. We are blessed with these resources. We're blessed with this knowledge. We want to do big things from the kingdom. It's not about us. It's about sharing our knowledge, sharing our passion, and sharing our ability to create resources and finances and stuff like that. So it's a big thing to us.
Yeah.
So, did God reveal that to the two of you before you met each other, or was it after you met each other that?
Um, no, it's kind of funny story, and some people know this story. So, Sharon and I were talking, dating, or whatever they call it nowadays, right? And so I was sharing kind of where I was at and kind of each lesson, and she really put her foot out there and like, okay, I'm going to share with this guy that I don't really know. I'm just kind of dating him or whatever. I'm going to share with him how bad my finances are, and kind of, she goes, I'm fully expecting him to just take off and run. And I didn't, I didn't really think 2 seconds about it. I looked at it as a problem. Okay, this is how we can work through this problem. This is what I'm learning. This is how you could do this. So it wasn't like that. But since we've been married, on different times we've had opportunities to partner with organizations. We've prayed separately, and I said our stance is always, if God gives us the same number, then we know this is God. And that's happened multiple times, a very specific number.
Wow.
And other times they're like, hey, this is what we feel in our heart. This is what we purpose in our heart. We want to give X amount to this organization. But the times that's really strong is when we both get the same number separately. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just say, for all of you out there watching, I am the least savvy of the people sitting here when it comes to all this. So I want to pose some questions, some scenarios, and the two of you may have slightly different answers. That's fine. That's great, because we're gonna have different people watching, right? And I just want to, I just want you guys to attack them, right? Just attack the questions, attack the frame of mind, whatever, with what you guys have learned, experience, all of that. Okay. So to the person that says, man, it's so hard for me to chip away at my debt and all this because I work hard and I should be able to, buy my Starbucks. For instance, there's this book, I hope I'm not butchering it, but Automatic Millionaire, I think is what it's called. And the first couple of chapters, he gets into something like, I forget the name of it, but he calls it like your Starbucks fund or whatever. And what he's saying by that is, if you go to work 5-6 days a week and each day you're stopping for that Starbucks and it costs you $5 to $7, he's like, what could that money do if A, you saved it, and or B, you invested it, right? He's like, you do things like that and eventually it stacks up, Okay, so to someone else, they say, no, I work hard. I deserve my Starbucks, right? How do you answer that, Paul?
That's a great question, and I get that question a lot, right? And I think the biggest challenge in our society, American society, is that they have a really hard, Americans in general have a hard time distinguishing needs from wants. And this whole entitlement, and basically probably the core of your question is, I deserve, right? And you can have that mindset, but that's really a poverty mindset. I mean, you have to be able to say, okay, this is what I want. So I need to do something I've never done before to get something I've never got before. So if it's, instead of going to Starbucks 5 days a week, okay, let's go there twice a week, or let's make coffee at home or whatever. And you're right. I mean, these little changes in your life can add up. But I think the biggest thing in American society is the difference between needs and wants. Okay. Yeah, I want that Starbucks coffee, but I can make coffee at home a lot cheaper. I can do something else with that money, like pay off my debt or whatever. And if you really stay focused on the debt, I mean, really, really focus and cut out all the Starbucks and the, whatever else your Amazon purchases. Some people are crazy about Amazon purchases. You can really attack this debt very quickly. And then once you see the debt starting to be paid off, then you're going to be excited. And Ramsey talks about the snowball method, right? So you're going to be motivated, to like, hey, I paid off another one. Let's do this again. Before you know it, all your debt's paid off. Yeah. Okay, now you can breathe a little bit, and then there's a strategy to move forward once you get out of that debt.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's good. Yeah. So I have, so I don't do FPU, but I work with a lot of people individually with their finances and stuff like that. And my initial questioning is like, why are you doing this? Like, what's your goal? Why do you and that kind of determines the speed at which we're going to try to attack whatever we're attacking. For me, when I was on this kind of thing, the amount of burden that I felt was horrible. Like, I could not live the way that I was living. So it was very easy for me to give up the Starbucks because I got to a place where I hated being in debt. Yeah. And so someone starting there on this process, it's going to be a lot easier to talk to them about, hey, let's see everything that you're spending money on. Yeah. Let's see, are there any places someone who's like half in, half out. Yeah. they're going to have a really hard time cutting out the Starbucks. And so, yeah, we are talking about mentality. Okay, you feel like I deserve Starbucks. Awesome. Do you also feel like you deserve to stay in debt?
Yeah.
And if that feeling is stronger, cool. Let's look at some other areas that we're going to cut. To be honest, I'm kind of the framework of like when I look at people's stuff, it's very hard unless, again, you're like the mentality of where you are to give up on the things you love. So I'm more of a like, let's make a pocket for it. And let's say we're only going to spend $20 on it. So you can still have your fix of it. Because if you're miserable through this whole thing, you probably are not going to last. Just like a diet, right? You try to cut out everything all at once. Maybe it works for 5% of people, but for the most majority, it's not going to work, right? Yeah. So let's figure that out. But you have to get to a place where you hate being in debt. Like, not just like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like this, I probably should, but I hate this thing. You hate this thing, then you're right, we're going to figure that out. But cutting out the coffee is going to be most likely minimal help, right? We have to look at the big ticket items, right? Most people are living in a house or an apartment that's way too much from what they can afford. I'm attacking that. I'm attacking the car payment that you probably are spending too much of your, right? Those bigger kind of things is really what's going to make the difference. Or if you're just simply not making enough, right? If you're not making enough money, I'm looking at those kinds of things. And then, all right, your Starbucks, if you really need that, then let me show you how much that's going to slow you down. And we'll calculate. I like to actually calculate. Everything is, I like to see numbers. So I'm like, okay, this is how much you're actually spending on this. If we keep doing this for a year, this is how much here. Okay, let's see if we added it here to the investment or to savings or to paying off debt, how much further it would go. That's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, normally I'll have clients print out like their last 3 check registers or bank statements. Check register tells you how old I am, right? And then we'll categorize it. We'll categorize food, we'll categorize entertainment, whatever. And when they see how much they're spending on restaurants and stuff like that, or the Starbucks, and it's eye-opening because they don't realize it because it's just a swipe. I mean, they don't pay with cash anymore. Most people don't. It's your card or a credit card or a debit card and stuff like that. So they're just a lack of knowledge, right? So they don't understand. But I totally agree with you. They have to have a strong why. You know, when you have somebody who makes $100,000 and are in debt up to their eyeballs, and they can't breathe or whatever, and they're stressing out. That's good money around here. Good money anywhere, really. But but it's talking through those. What's important to you? Is the Starbucks more important to you 5 days a week, or do you want to be able to take that vacation you pick the place, right, and pay cash and really enjoy that vacation? And when you come back, you don't have a $7,000 credit card bill because so then that vacation is really not a vacation. It's really stressing inducing, right? It's a burden.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Now, both of you all 3 of us are of faith, right? So how do you balance or just tell me your thoughts on how God views debt?
Well, I mean, you don't want to be a slave to the lender. I mean, debt is not good. You don't want to be a slave to anything but the Holy Spirit, right? So like, I think you mentioned earlier, like we see so many instances in the Bible where they talk about money, and all of it is tied to stewardship, really figuring out how to do it. So I'm thinking about this conversation I had years ago with a young lady, and she was going to be like a doctor of some sort. I can't remember exactly what it is, but young, had a lot of debt, and her viewpoint on debt was basically like, well, you only get one life anyway, and right, and so like I'm not gonna pay back. I had no intention of paying this debt back, basically. Like, let it just continue to go, and like whatever, I'm gonna live life. And like I'm like, why would you want to live like that? And this is a Christian woman, you know what I mean? Well, I just have other things that I'd rather be doing with my money. Okay, well, that's stealing. That's like literally one of the commandments. Because you did take out the money.
You just upset some people watching.
Yeah.
I just need you to know.
I'm sorry. Like you need to.
That's good.
Right. So it's this is kind of what I look like. That you did take out the money, regardless of why or how, whatever. You took it out, and you signed a paper that said you'd pay it back. And now we have people sitting around not paying it back, living however they want to live. Well, then how do you expect to get any type of financial blessing from God when you are actively stealing?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I have to come at it from that way. But furthermore, it's that idea of like, I'm going to say this is a personal conviction, but I don't feel like that. I'm just saying it to be nice. But like Christians should be some of the wealthiest people.
Absolutely.
Right? We should give the most.
Mm.
We should give the most because we are the best stewards. That's how it should be,
Amen.
right? But somewhere it kind of got this like weird theology came in that you have to be like dirt poor
Right.
and you have to hate money. You're called to steward money well,
Yeah.
whatever you have of it. If you have $100,
Yeah.
$1,000.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say wealthy is in our context is going to be defined as not being slave to the lender.
Yes.
Right. Because
Yes.
for some people it might be that 100,000. For other people it might be 40,000.
Yes.
But like, are you living within your means? Are you balancing
Exactly.
this well? And someone at 40,000 can be more wealthy than someone at 100,000
Exactly.
if they
Amen.
manage it well.
100%, because you have people who
Right.
make a ton of, especially in this area.
Yeah.
Like, come in, like, we have beautiful homes in this area,
Mhm.
and we have a lot of people who are house poor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Ton. And like
Absolutely.
that is not the way that we're free to move
Yeah.
in the kingdom the way that we should. Like, we should be able to, I look at the outside world, and like, how like you have all these like billionaires, millionaires, whatever, giving all this money to build buildings and this wing of this library and this blah blah blah. Like, that the Christian space should look like that.
Mm.
Absolutely.
We should look like that.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't. There's a problem, there's a disconnect there
Yeah.
around this. And I think it's a shame, right? Because again, there is freedom in being able to say like, hey, I'm going to work, right? Because God created us to work, and I love work and all that stuff, but I am not enslaved to working.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not that I depend on this, because if I don't, then no one's going to eat and we're going to starve, right? There should be some level of being able to move so that when there are people who are really in those situations, I don't have to think twice about pulling out my wallet and helping or renting a hotel for someone or whatever it is that's needed for someone who's truly in a hard time, because I'm managing well enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think the mindset people need to have, when we talk about stewardship, how the Bible talks about stewardship, where we don't own anything.
Mm.
God gives us everything, the air that we breathe, everything that we have. So if you put yourself as, I'm a manager of the Lord's money.
Mm.
Now, he's always given all of us the same contract, right? He asks us to return the 10, which is the tithe. And I totally believe in tithing, and I don't think anybody should be ashamed if they're tithers. Sharon and I are tithers, and we're proud to say it. You ain't gonna tell me otherwise. Nothing touches a tithe in our budget, and that's how I teach. And he gives us the 90 to live off of. So as Christians, we should be funding all these things. The government should be funding, just like we're going through this process now with the government shutdown. Hopefully it'll end today. But we have, a lot of people in this area that are coming to the food pantries, ours and other pantries around here. And it's always been the church. Before this government system came on, it's always been the church that takes care of the community, the widows and the orphans, is all this. It's never been the government. So we're supposed to be wealthy. We're supposed to be givers. I mean, God created us as givers. I mean, in Genesis, it talks about how Adam was supposed to take care of the land and steward the land, right? So from the very beginning, we were designed to be stewards.
Yeah. That's so good. I think about the story, the parable of the talents, right? That's always comes to mind, and that's one of those like good but haunting, right? It's like, okay, there was the one who was given the one bag of gold, and one was given 3, one was given 5. The one who was given 3 went out, doubled it. One who was given 5 went out, doubled it. The one who was given 1 just buried it, right? Like, and didn't do anything with it. And the way the master responds and is like, take what he has, throw him out, wicked, lazy servant. And it's like, now I understand that was a parable talking about, our gifts, our talents, but I think it also extends to our physical money that God has given us. How are you stewarding this? How are you investing it? And if the best you can do is just keep your head above water, then you're not being a good steward, right? And so here's my take on it. I believe God hates debt. I'm stuck on that, right? You can't convince me otherwise. And the reason why is not because it's some cardinal sin and all this. I believe it's because God knows it hampers our freedom to be able to live. Like you were talking about this crushing, I forget the word you used, but this burden is what you use, right? Like when you're deep in debt, it's all you can think about, right? And so either that or you take the opposite extreme of, like you said, I'm just going to live my life and whatever happens, happens. But I believe God notices, I know that he notices that this is so much on your mind that you can't even hear me talk right now.
Yeah.
You can't even really be free in so many other areas other than finances,
Yeah.
because this finance one is so heavy. And so I'm convinced that, as you said, the Bible talks about it, and I'm believing, I know that God hates to see his people in debt. So
It's funny because just as you're talking about this, I'm also thinking, yeah, like of course he hates debt. Like even so much so that like the wages of sin is death.
Yeah.
It's a payment that we could never pay.
Right.
He hates debt, and so he comes up with solutions so that we will not be in debt.
Right.
And yet people still also even
Yeah.
reject that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's these different levels to like debt and payment, and it's this idea that God cannot stand to see us in a place of being confined or being bound, weighed down, right?
But I think in addition to that, what you were saying a couple minutes ago about hating debt, because we're so focused on that, because I think that separates us from our relationship with God. When we're so focused on debt and paying off the debt and how am I going to get out of this, I'm not focused on my relationship with him and viewing him as my provider for everything. So when you're out of balance, you're going to focus on one thing or the other. I would much rather you focus on God and what he wants you to do than worried about, okay, now I bought this brand new car or this house I can't afford or whatever else you might have put yourself in debt, enslaved to, and not focused on what God has. And he's like, hey, I need you to take some of that 90 that I in this organization, or this person, this single mom needs groceries for the next week. Okay, Lord, it's your money anyhow.
Yeah.
How much do I need to send to her? Do I need to take her myself? Whatever it is. So
and okay, let's be honest. Not only does it interfere with your relationship with God, it interferes with your relationship with your spouse, with your kids. Because, for instance, if you are having to work 3 and 5 jobs, if that's your life, like that was a period of your life, but if that was your life, you wouldn't be able to be mom the way you are. You wouldn't be able to be wife the way you are. You wouldn't be able to minister, so it affects all these different areas, and yet so many people don't see the value in being good stewards.
Right.
Well, this is a spiritual battle as well. And so there are people who are literally not even awake to this. And so when I do meet with people, this is one of my first questions too, like where's your relationship at with God? Because if you don't understand that this is a spiritual battle, we're putting a Band-Aid on something and you're going to return. You're going to be like the dog returning to your vomit, basically, right? If you don't understand what this actually is. It's also why, just like I heard you just say, I also don't even suggest, I say, you need to be tithing.
Yeah.
You're looking for a supernatural breakthrough, but you're not willing to trust and put your faith in that God can do. But you're like, but I'm in debt already. How am I going to give this 10%? It's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
So when I first started this journey, I was only working as a maitre d' at a restaurant. I had just quit my job working at a school because I was going to go back to get my master's because, of course, naturally, you need to make more money, and I'm not making any money in education, so I need to go back and get more education, right? There's more debt, right? This whole cycle. So now I'm working as a maitre d', started my grad school program, and so I'm not making a ton of money. I was making enough to get by for that period of time, but I was tithing on that. That little bit that I was making, and I was like, all right, God, I'm gonna trust. And I had so many times instances like first of all, I had a family friend that I have to shout out during this journey because he came alongside and really saw me really working hard, and that man is not a Christian. But he helped me with things like my car, with like stuff, and had it not been for him and his wife, like that family, I would have been on the street somewhere for sure, but so I'm very grateful to them. I'm grateful to my mother for instilling like such a hard work ethic, because I never once was I like, oh, okay, well, I got to go leech off my parents. I never felt that way. I was like, this is my problem. I gotta find another job. I gotta work harder. I gotta blah, blah. And I know that came from her.
I made this mess. I got to figure out how to get out of this mess.
That's really it, And so those things were helpful. But coming into this, I'm like, okay, God, you told me that this problem, this big, and I don't mind sharing, I was in $186,000 of student debt.
It hurts my heart.
Just that's it. Just that's a lot of money to be 24, right? That's a lot. And then and God, you're sitting here telling me that I'm going to be not only debt free, but be able and be in a position where I'll be able to give. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, God, well, then I got to trust your principles that I'm seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me that this is the way to do this. Let's do this.
Mm.
That is the hardest barrier I have of entry, talking to some people. They just
Yeah.
don't want to get that. And so my thing is like, hey, you can continue doing this the way that you've been doing it, but you're not seeing results.
Right.
But if you look at my life and how I've done it, if you look at some of these lives of FPU,
Yeah.
people who have gone through it, who have done the actual thing, and you see how they have done it.
Yeah.
And I think Ramsey says this all the time, like, don't go to other poor people to figure out how to get out of your debt. Go to someone who's actually done it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
see what they've done and try to replicate that, as opposed to like, well, no, I'm just going to keep doing it my way, because your way is not working.
It's not working.
Right. Exactly.
And that's why I talk about it being a spiritual thing. It's a demonic thing to keep you in that cycle
In
and
the
that,
loop, yeah.
that hamster wheel, so that
Yeah.
you can't ever get out.
Yeah, I just want to add, she talked about tithing, and I mentioned it earlier. Tithing will really change your life. And as I was going through my journey, I was still in debt. This is before Sharon and I got married, and I was tithing. I didn't tithe prior with my first wife, but I started tithing. I always had the heart to tithe and to give. That was always in me, but that was not something that was was happening in my first marriage.
Yeah.
So I'm tithing, I'm working through this debt, and the Lord told me to give a very specific amount to somebody, just random. I'm like, am I hearing you right, Lord? You kind of know where I'm at here, don't really have this. And he's like, no. So, I fought it for, I don't know, maybe about a day. And I'm like, all right, Lord, I gave it. And you talk about God's math.
Yep.
I found money, had checks, I had different things that were coming in that I wasn't expecting, I wasn't thinking about. But there was things that it wasn't just a check from you showing up in my mailbox. It was things that I had totally forgot about.
Yeah.
And it all worked out. And it's just like, so I share that story that God's math is not our math.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out the same. But
I mean, I will say, just sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
no,
you.
no, you're good.
I've had some of those random, not just things that I forgot about, but like totally random out of the blue. When we first moved here, like I said, we moved from Delaware to the DMV. Delaware, we call it lower, slower, right? Everything just moves a little bit slower. There's no sales tax. Like it's look, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Beaches, cornfields, and chicken houses. Like that's Delaware in a nutshell. Okay, Northern Delaware, you get a little bit of the city, Wilmington, but it's just different there. Moving here, everything was super expensive. I remember when we first moved here, my wife didn't have a job secured. I moved out here on pennies and faith, right? Pastor Robert offered me a contract, which was like a standard starting contract, but we didn't have family in the area. We didn't have, houses secured, all that kind of stuff. So we found a house over in King George, about 45 minutes from here. I was like willing to do the drive, whatever. I'm excited. But I remember there were some times where money got a little bit tight, right? But we kept tithing. That was one thing that we did not touch. It was like, we're going to tithe, whether it's, on little amount or a huge amount, we're going to keep tithing. And that was something that both our parents had, instilled in us from when we were little. And I'm grateful for it. There was this one Sunday, never forget it. Someone walks up to me and says, they said, "Hey, are you going to be here at the, I think back then it was a 12:30 service. You going to be here at 12:30? I said, yeah. He said, I'll be right back. I got to go. I just need to make sure you'd still be here. I was like, okay. I've been here for maybe, I don't know, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. It wasn't long. He comes up to me after I'd gotten off stage for worship. I was leading worship back then. And he hands me this envelope. And it's full of money. It's like $1,000 in there. And he just says, I was sitting in service today and Holy Spirit told me, give him $1,000. He said, and this guy, he's really frugal. He's really good with his money, and the Holy Spirit has blessed him to be able to invest in some really cool stuff. But he's really frugal. And so he said, I kind of stopped and I was like, Holy Spirit, what? Like, why? And he said, I sat there a little bit longer. He said, and then at the end of service, God said, I told you, give him $1,000. He said, and then I'm thinking to myself, well, it's Sunday, banks are closed. I can't really. And he was like, and then it dawned on me, I could go to an ATM. He says, I went to ATM. I can only take out X amount. He said, so I did it like 3 or 4 times so I could get to this amount. And he said, I didn't even have an envelope. It wasn't a real envelope. It was a piece of paper that he had like taped up and just, handed it to me. He was like, I don't know what it's for. He said, take your wife on vacation, do whatever you want with it. I'm just being obedient.
Wow.
And I remember that moment, 2 things happened. One, I said, I want to be able to be that guy. Like, I want to be able to have it to give and not miss it. And even though him being so frugal, like he could have missed it, even though he had it to give, but he was so submitted to Holy Spirit that he was like, it's not mine anyway,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said. That happened. And then crazy, maybe a week later, had something go down with my truck that I was driving, and it cost like $800 to fix. And there was the money right there, right?
Wow.
And so said all that to say, we're talking about the God math.
Yeah.
And like, I couldn't predict it. I couldn't, this was random. It wasn't like, oh, I'd forgotten I'd invested in this thing later, or, you know, it was just out of nowhere. An envelope was handed to me. Now, that's only happened one time in my life, but I'm grateful for it because it solidified, like I said, those two things. One, that when you honor God, God will supply in some pretty crazy ways. And then two, the goal is to be able to be that guy for somebody else someday. And so that's always stuck with me to this day.
That's really good.
Man, so when it comes to things like here's a question, and I want you both to answer it. You talk to a couple. One is very clearly more aggressive than the other one at wanting to attack the debt. One person is the, you know, hey, I want to do my Starbucks, and the other one is, no, we need to cut everything cold turkey, shut off the Netflix, and we're gonna, you know, use that money to pay off the debt. How do you counsel? How do you advise?
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go
Okay.
first, I guess.
It happens all the time, almost like every time.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, I said, okay, you guys, you are a team. You have to get on the same sheet of music. However, you know, when you build a budget, it's your, and I don't like to use budget because the negative connotations. I said, this is your battle plan. And usually if I have teachers in my group, I'll say, it's like a teaching plan. This is your plan for the semester, whatever. You know, you have to do X amount of things to achieve the goal, right? So this is your family battle plan. You get to design it however you want. If you want to be very tight and very frugal and cut out the Netflix and all that stuff, you're going to move forward a lot faster. But if you need a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you can't. You're going to still move in the right direction. You're just going to get there slower. So you got to figure out that why, as we were talking about. What's more important, the Starbucks or getting out of debt so that we can save for kids' college or we can buy that house or whatever the thing is? But I always put it on them. You know, we as coaches, facilitators, I can build you the best budget, but if you don't follow it, then it's just a piece of paper. So it's got to be their budget. And so that's usually how I help them tackle it.
Yeah. The same. So I do. So I don't run FPU. I've never done FPU. I just kind of do the one-on-one or couple or whatever kind of thing with a mix of all of the things that I've kind of learned. But my first couple, like my first session or whatever, is about all of the mental stuff that's going on, right? Like, because we need to know, how did you think about money growing up? How do you think about it right now? How do you, like, why do I spend money the way that I do? Why about, like, all of those things come together in that very first meeting. And then we move. It's funny that you said plan, because we use the same thing. I use the word plan for ours as well instead of a budget, coming together. And I'm all about real numbers. I did this with my kids. I do it now with, not my kids, sorry, when I used to be a teacher. And then also, you know, when I'm meeting with people, is I show them the actual numbers. And so we're like, okay, if you want to take this route, this is A. Let me show you what that looks like. And so we'll run all of the numbers all the way through. If you never cut out any of the stuff and you just go the way this person wants to do it, this is how long it's going to take you to get to that goal that you're looking for. All right, this is B. This is if you take out this stuff and you run blah, blah, blah. And then this is C. This is what this looks like. And then let them talk about that. Look, I want them to have a real number, because that was, I think, my biggest downfall. I think that if somebody at 18 or 17 years old, when I was trying to make decisions about college, sat with me with real numbers, I would have listened to somebody. But nobody did. They were just fake numbers, fake whatever. And then when I was trying to get out of debt on my own without the plan, without knowing about Ramsey or Rich Dad Poor Dad, all those other things that I like looked into during that time, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know. So I'm just like throwing something and not making a dent at all because I didn't know anything realistic. And then here's the bigger piece. I didn't meet anybody who was talking about it.
People don't like to talk about
People
money.
don't like talking about money.
It's uncomfortable.
And so that is the biggest barrier, I think, to people becoming free, actually, is not being able to talk about it. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. You know, I grew up with, you don't tell people what's going on in my bank.
There's levels to that. That just everything you just said there, you can clip that and put that over any topic we talk about. The embarrassment, the shame, we don't talk about it.
And that's really, really hard. And particularly, so then you get two people who are married trying to come together to talk about something they've been trained to not talk about, it's going to be hard. It's going to be awkward. So we need to give them real case scenarios. Like, okay, with your money, with your numbers, we're going to go through all of the stuff that you actually spend. What is that goal? For some people I meet with, they are trying to buy their first house. So that's the goal. Fine. Some people are trying to go on vacation for the first time ever. Great. Some people are trying to get out of debt. Those are all three different modes. And and some people are just trying to start investing. Those are different modes. So we're going to go at it at a different pace, but we do need to come together. My husband and I, he's very good with money as well, but we were in two different spaces. So like I had all this debt when we got married, but I was actively paying it off. I think by the time we actually got married, I had already paid off like 70 grand on my own. And then he comes in, he didn't have any student debt because he was a football player. So he went to school for free, and he made some really smart financial decisions coming out of college. And so he bought his first investment property now, like right outside of college. And so his money thing was in a completely different space. He was like real estate and investing, and I'm over here like, no, all debt is bad debt. Like, you know, even that debt. And he's like, no, you're not getting. It took us 6 months to get together, even though we knew we were heading in the same direction. We both wanted the same thing, which was financial freedom. And we even had similar whys, right? But how we were getting there was completely different. And we butt heads a ton there. But we were able to come together, create this plan that we talk about to meet those pieces of what we needed. And now, okay, the result of us being able to do that is we're debt free, and we paid off my stuff, but all his little toys and trinkets that he had to pay those off too, right? And so like we needed to do that, but those conversations are hard. So I have to come into space with two people who are on a different page, who are married. First of all, remind them that you are married, because I will say, out of all the couples I work with, probably 70% of the time they don't combine finances. And that's hard.
That's one of the things I always talk about in premarital. I'm like, I can't tell you what to do.
Yes.
But like,
that's really hard. And it's like, again, I understand that the way we're brought up comes with a lot. Like, okay, I was brought up that the man didn't stay, the man doesn't provide, all that. But I have to trust in my partner and in God, that God is covering us. And that's really what God convicted me on in this journey, in this process where I was trying to fight for like my way, was like, hey, you need to submit. And I know we don't like that word, women, but like, and trust that this is the husband that God gave me, and that he also has a plan, and that I can kind of take a step back and trust that, again, he's not out there gambling. He's not out there doing all this crazy stuff with money. He was doing the right thing. Let me trust the guy that God gave me, you know?
That's good.
So that's kind of what I would kind of work with the two couples.
That's good. The whole combining finances thing, I'll always mention that in premarital. Almost always mention that in premarital. And look, I get it. I know some people who were married and, you know, either widowed, divorced, whatever, and then got remarried. And some things are in your name, some things are in your names. It's a little bit different. And so we have a bank account for, you know, these rental properties that I own. And it's, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. My question is always the motive, right? Like the why, what the plan is. For me, I know that for me, having a separate account would be a layer of something. How do I say this? I can very easily be possessive of like, this is mine. What's mine is mine, right? And so my wife and I combining our accounts was a mental and practical, it's ours.
Yeah.
Like no matter which side, it all goes into the pot, right? And so, again, saying that from a pastoral relational point of view, I can't speak to how good or bad it is separate finances versus together finances when it comes to taking on debt and things like that. So you kind of gave us your answer. Paul, what's your thoughts on separate accounts versus?
It is tough, but it can work. Sharon and I have separate accounts, but we still build the budget the same. But we designate these things are coming out of her check. These things are coming out of the family bank account. Cause she likes to, if she wants to buy me something, she doesn't want me to know. And she's not an extravagant spender anyhow. I have to force her to spend money on herself, but for like Christmas or birthdays or whatever. She's like, I don't want you to see it. Cause I'm always in the bank account. Like, okay, I want to make sure there's no fraudulent activity. Make sure, okay, this cleared on time. This cleared on time. Wait, that didn't clear. Oh, that's right. I had to change the card out.
Yeah.
So I'm always constantly doing that stuff. But it can work. It just requires a little bit more work. And again, the possession stuff. No, it's this is the family.
Yeah.
Sharon has access to all the accounts if she wants it. I have access to her. I never go into her USA account or her Bank of America account. But it can work. It is a lot more work though.
So something that we do is, so we have our bank accounts obviously like in the same whatever. So we each have access to everything that's shared, but we both have a discretionary fund.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so we have our own discretion so that if he needs to buy me something, I need to buy him something or whatever, it's there. And
I
it's
use my
not,
Cash App for that.
It's not asking. It's not, it's not being like, oh, can I spend blah, blah, blah. Like, no, if it's in my discretionary, it's in my discretionary. If it's in his discretionary, he doesn't have to tell me what he's spending his discretionary on. And that's fine. But bills, all of that stuff. I think sometimes what I find is also that there's one partner who's very checked out about the finances and that has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, the other one person that everything, and then when something catastrophic happens, the other person has no idea where to go, what to do, how to find anything. And I think that's really dangerous. I think both partners need to come in knowing about the state of their financial health as a family. And so again, like, if you're doing it separate, where are you combining? Okay, well, we're paying bills together. This is blah, blah, all that case. But for debt, for me, it was really hard I know how much my husband wanted to do the things he was doing with real estate and all this stuff. So I felt like ashamed about my debt and like very burdened by it, knowing that he had none. And that was the thing I had to work through for myself, like with God. And he knew about it. Like he knew about the debt. Something I told him right off the bat. I already told him like, this is how much I've been paying off by myself. So he saw that I wasn't just like sitting around on it. Yeah. But it was something I was like super self-conscious about, like walking into this thing. And so when we first got married or even engaged and talking about everything, I was very much on the set, like, this is my debt. This has nothing to do with you. Like, I'm never going to ask you for a dime. I'm killing it. Like, this number is going down. The snowball's happening, this thing, it's fine. Like, I don't need you, but this is something that I'm doing. And I'm still, and in my mind, I'm like, I'll give you half of the rent. I'll give you half of the thing. Like, I had no, I think, structure in my mind that he would come and be like the provider, right? Because I didn't grow up with that. So in my mind, we're just everything 50-50, but this is my debt, so I'll continue. And so it was really cool to see how God worked on him separately for him to feel like, no, we're going to do this together. And by doing it together, by taking on, we were able to pay off everything in 3 years.
That's awesome.
Right? All of my stuff, all of his stuff, get us into a nice place where if I would have been doing it myself, I probably would have taken like 6 years, right? Probably double that. Yeah. But I had to, again, like surrender, like submit, because I'm like, no, I got to, if I'm not paying half the rent, then he's going to think he can like, dominate and all. And I had to, that is a dying to self of me, of a woman, of like, no, like this is the man that I chose to marry. This is the man that God brought to me. Where then can I model this submission, not in the doormat kind of way or whatever, but like he's saying he wants to do this. So take it. Yeah. And don't worry about, oh, well, the man is going to hold this over. That's stuff from past. That's not what we have going on here. Yeah. Again, though, we talked about this marriage episode, dating episode, it's all about choosing. You need to know who you're choosing and who you're making a life with. Yeah. That's a big deal. Yeah. So,
man,
the biggest decision of your life.
Biggest.
Yeah. So this conversation of stewardship could go in so many different directions. We should probably do a few different episodes on, stewardship of finances, stewardship of relationships, stewardship of, But as we close this episode down, if you had to give some words of wisdom, whether it's someone who, is on the other end and they are just now starting the debt process or getting rid of debt process, or someone who is newly married trying to figure out how to combine finances, just kind of, what are some things you have read? What are some things that have helped you out? Things that maybe clicked and gave you that aha moment when it comes to the conversation we've been having. If you had to give someone some resources, what would that be?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm the financial peace guy. So the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, I mean, that teaches his whole system. That's not the only system out there. There's a lot of systems, but that's the one I'm trained in and I use the most because it it goes over all the stuff we talked about,
Mhm.
understanding your why are you trying to get out of debt? Talks about your budget. You can't be successful if you don't know where your money's going, right?
Yeah.
And just being fully invested. Both partners are fully invested. So that's definitely a place that you can start from. And just getting knowledge, as much knowledge as possible. Don't listen to what the world has to say, because we know we live in this world, but we're not of this world, right? And that's why we're in this mess, because we have fallen off over the years on following the Bible. What does the Bible say? It talks about finances more than anything else, right? So get the knowledge, ask questions, don't be embarrassed. I mean, everybody has debt or has had debt at one time. We've made our way out. So, and others can too, if they're willing to submit to a process and do something different that they've never done before to get something they've never got before.
That's
So
good.
I would say, start out with a Total Money Makeover would be a good book to start with.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of that. That's the book that I read that kind of kicked off with me figuring out a plan. I also love that he comes from a Christian background. So he does talk a lot about stewardship. And in the later books, he starts talking about kingdom funds and kingdom investment and all that stuff. So it's like a really great resource. And I don't know, I'm thinking about this, but the quickest way to learn a new language is to immerse yourself. Right. So if you move to a different country and you spend 6 months there, you're going to learn the language way faster than if you're like at home on an app, right, and not speaking that language to anyone else. Financial literacy is a language. And so we need to be able to immerse ourselves in that. So in my time, as I was trying to figure out this stuff, like, God gave me this vision. And also gave me the tools. So I am reading the books, all of the books that I can find, but I'm also listening to podcasts and all these things. Dave Ramsey's podcast was great for me, actually, because I heard real people with real numbers, because I needed that. I'm a real number kind of person. So before I was just like, oh, well, nobody has the amount of debt that I have. So other people are paying it off, but they're like crying about $5,000. They don't know what my debt is like. And so I found the show, and then I was like, oh, there's other people like me.
And that have more debt than me.
And that motivated me to be like, because they do the success stories on there too. And I was like, oh, well, if this person can do it, I can do this. And that kind of keeps you going. But I was immersed, right? I told everybody what I was doing. My friends knew, my family knew, whatever. So sometimes, no, I'm not going to go out with you. No, hey, we're not going to go all out to brunch and me split the tab when I had an orange juice. We're not doing that, right? And they know, oh yeah, because Max is doing that thing, right? So I'm talking about it. I'm not going on the expensive thing right now because I'm trying to do this thing. And not everybody's going to get it. That's okay. I'm going to be focused on this thing. So just like I think immersion, it's really important to be all in, I think, if you want to get out, because it's such a slippery slope. There's people who pay off debt and get right back into it. And they get into that. So you really do want to come to a place where you hate it. And like that is a prayer with God. Like, God, can you teach me to hate this debt? Will you give me that? Because when you get there, you're going to do everything you can to get out, And like, I think we miss that prayer sometimes. We miss that this is a spiritual battle, and like, let's get equipped that way. So that would be my suggestion. I did also read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which helped with the mentality, mindset thing. Then that was like a big change for me as well. But I don't think that's not a Christian book. It's just a book about money.
Secular book. But I've read that one too. It's a good book.
Good.
Yeah,
it's good. And again, like, if you've never been around it, you need to go get around it. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, you can't, be in a corner, I'm gonna tithe, but I'm not gonna learn anything about it.
Right.
Okay, well, that's not gonna fix your problems, because you're still spending, you're still, right? You need to be an active participant in this process as well.
I'm just going to echo what we've already said. So I mentioned earlier a book, Automatic Millionaire. I think that's a great read. And it's really practical. It's really easy. It's more of a, I forget who writes it, but his mindset's kind of a set it and forget it, right? So like, once you set X amount to come out of your paycheck into this investment account or into savings or whatever, like, you don't miss it. You don't think about it. Just set it up, make it automatic. And before you know it, you're an automatic millionaire. That's kind of the way the book goes. Love that. The other thing, I want to echo something that we kind of said, kind of glossed over. You'd mentioned it, and I was going to go there with the podcast, so I was really glad that you had said it. how uncomfortable it is to start talking about it.
Mhm.
It's real easy for y'all to watch us talk about it here.
Yeah.
But you'll leave this episode and go, that was good. And then you'll still try to go and do it on your own and not get any further.
Yeah.
Like, find yourself some Paul Cutters, find yourself some Maxine Higgins, find yourself some people who've kind of been there, done that, and are willing to sit down and talk with you. And it's not about rubbing your nose in it. It's not about embarrassing you. It's literally, hey, if you've figured out your why, I think about it like anything else, going to the gym, right? Getting a personal trainer. A personal trainer is not there to rub your nose in all the bad things you've ever eaten your entire life. They're saying, but right here, right now, you want to make this change, and I'm here to help you however best. And we're going to tailor this because, like you said, like diets, working out, same thing here. If it's not going to work for you, you're not going to do it. So let's figure out what's actually going to work. I say the same thing about reading the Bible. Some people are like, oh, I got to read the Bible 5 chapters a day and this and this and this. And somebody else says, I'll sit down and I'll read a few times a week and I'll read in bulk or this or that. I say, what are you going to do that's actually going to work? What do you do that's actually going to keep you, if you read 1 verse a day, but you're actually reading it and soaking in it, meditating on it, this is not what we're talking about. It's a whole different sermon. But y'all get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Start the conversations is really what I want to just urge people to do. Start the conversations, talk to some people, and then like you were saying, immerse yourself in it, stick to it.
And the only thing I would add to that is, apply some discernment. You don't just take any podcast. Or don't take any advice. I mean, your broke cousin that was just asking you for money last week, you don't want to take financial advice from him. So and you have to talk to people who have been through that journey or in that journey and listen to them. So really apply some discernment on whose advice you're going to take.
That's really good.
Make them show you the receipts.
Yeah. Don't go buy a Instagram course of someone who you don't know.
That's right.
If they actually have money or they're just making the money off the course.
That's right.
Oh, that's a whole other thing. All right. Look, thank you so much, Paul.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks
coming
for
on
having me.
and having a conversation with us. This will not be the last time we have you on here.
That's fine.
If you're willing to come back.
Look forward to the next one.
Maxine, as always, thank you so much.
Happy to be here.
And to all of you out there, thank you for rocking with us so far, having these conversations, or at least listening to us have these conversations. And I'm trusting that you're going out and having these conversations with your friends, your pastors, your leaders, your trusted advisors. Wrestle through this stuff. The point of this podcast is to have conversations and wrestle. It's not about always agreeing. It's about wrestling through it and coming to this conclusion. If you're interested, you can email us at betweensundays@newlife.live. We'd love to hear from you, get some feedback, give us some potential ideas for episodes in the new year. Other than that, we love y'all, and we'll see you next week. Living